this interview I'm talking to Geoff Downes, who's a writer, producer and a keyboardist for bands such as Asia, Yes, and he's just brought out his latest album with the Downes Braide Association. Hello Geoff, and thank you for doing the interview.
Hello, how are you?
Explain Downes Braide Association.
Project that started about 10 years ago I met Chris through Trevor Horn actually, with a band called The Producers, and we just got talking and said it would be nice if we wrote some songs together, and that's really how it all started. So it's been going 10 years now. We're on our 4th album, so it's all coming along really well.
Describe your new album.
It's from our own standpoint, it's quite a deep album. I think that when we first started out, we were doing more of a collection of songs, but I think that the last couple of albums we've done, we've wanted to go more for having it as a whole rather than just a collection of songs. And I think that there's a theme through this album particularly, and it's hopefully got optimism and light and darkness and all sorts of things in there.
So that was a conscious decision when making the album to focus on the theme of summer?
Yeah, I think so. I think it was a nice, the fact that I think maybe had some influence over the fact that we're not taking holidays and things like that and not seeing beaches and all that kind of thing. And I think from, Chris obviously living in LA as well, he got a bit of influence from that. And then we injected our sort of English music in there. So I think it's worked out pretty nicely.
How did you come up with the title?
Well, Halcyon is all about summer, and, I think obviously Halcyon Days is a sort of common phrase, but we thought we'd change that, and because of the nature of some of the songs were quite, I suppose, classical in some ways, they're kind of English music based, and, going back a few hundred years, some of them, in terms of the influences. So I think that it sort of fell together like that. And then, of course, when we got Roger Dean involved doing the sleeve, he came up with this idea of the kingfisher and, this sort of lovely pastoral, bucolic imagery that he does so well.
How does that work? Does he come up with the ideas and you agree them, or do you work together?
Well, I think it's a combination of the two things, really, because it did have a different title for the album originally. It was going to be called Holding Up the Heavens, but I think that, this is one of the tracks on the album, but I think we felt that, it was more of a conceptual thing, that we wanted to get all these nice influences, as you said, the summer, the sun, the sort of almost late summer, early autumn kind of feel to the album. And getting Roger involved was great because he did this whole thing where he was painting the sleeve as we were working on the music, and then he'd hear a bit of the music, and it would give him, I think, inspiration, and it would give us inspiration as well, seeing him do that and seeing the direction we take the album in.
You have 4 sides on this album. Is there a theme running through each section?
We've been thinking about the vinyl quite a bit, and both Chris and I are big vinyl lovers, and I think working on this sort of one side to an album kind of idea is something that we're both really into. It's the ceremonial thing of pulling the vinyl out of the sleeve and looking at this wonderful artwork, and it's almost a kind of ceremonial experience, and so we did try and I think try to keep that in mind when we're putting the album together.
Personally, what are your favourite tracks on the album?
Well, I think they hang together as a piece in terms of as a concept, if you like. I don't like to use the album terminology too strongly because concept albums sort of something that kind of had its day in some respects, but there is a thread running through it, and I think that we kind of see that as being something that we both enjoy doing.
What are your favourite holiday summer memories?
Oh gosh, too many. I've had a lot of good times in the summer. I mean, more, I suppose more recent. I've got a little place by the sea in Tenby, which is in South Wales, and that's a nice little retreat, and I like to go there and walk on the beach. Mainly off season, because you go off season, there's nobody on the beach, and you're kind of lost in your own world. But no, I've had some great times. Obviously, when we've done a lot of touring with both Asia and Yes, and we've not nearly always done a summer American tour, and that's always a great experience because it's just you go to Los Angeles or something like that, and you go to Venice Beach and you chill out by the sea, and everyone's in a good mood. And
What is the inspiration behind Hymn to Darkness?
I think it's a piece that I came up with, and it was more of a sort of continuity. I literally was just playing the piano one day, and I just recorded this whole sequence, and I thought, I played it back and thought, well, that sounds, it was very hymnal, very. I mean, my dad was a church organist, so I've got a lot of that in my roots, as it were. So I just literally just wrap this whole thing off in one take, and then that was one of the ones I sent to Chris, and I think he got it, because it's quite a dark mood, but also it's very hymnal, and I think that he really, the great thing working with Chris is that I send him an idea, and he immediately gets it, and he can start working with it and turn it into something much better than I even dreamed of. So yeah.
How does the process of creating an album with Chris happen?
Well, it's something that we've been doing for some time now. Is working remotely, because Chris has been, up until recently, lived in Los Angeles, and I live down here in South Wales. So it's been a distant relationship in some respects, even since the first album. So we kind of got into that way of working where I'd send Chris a bag of ideas, and he'd come back and send me some of his, and then we'd work on those and continue exchange. So I think that in the last year or so, since the pandemic happened and people have been working from home a lot musically, and sending working on that principle, I think it's something that we've been doing for a long time. So in many ways it didn't seem that different to us to be working in that way.
Do you ever get writer's block, and how do you overcome it?
Oh God, writer's block. Yeah, I mean, I think that anyone who's worked on in the creative world, you have great periods where you can literally just capture things straight away, and then there's other times you can sit there with the with a blank page in front of you and nothing happens. So I think it's all part of the creative process. I think you just have to try and capture something that you like, something you feel is original, something you feel is unique, and then see how you can develop that.
What are your most influential albums and why?
Well, that's difficult, that one. Certainly, I think probably one of the Caravan albums, In the Land of Grey and Pink. That was a very influential album to me, mainly because I'm obviously being a keyboard player. I'm driven by keyboard playing albums, and certainly that album, I think Ars Longa Vita Brevi by The Nice was another one. When I first saw Keith Emerson at the Isle of Wight Festival in, I think it was 1968, when he was playing with The Nice. That was an incredible experience, and that really set me on the road to discovering rock music. And I think maybe one of the other ones that I'm going, early albums, probably Close to the Edge. Yes, I think that was a defining album, which I've had the pleasure to, look into and study, and it's been great.
How did you start playing the keyboards?
Probably when I was about 6. I used to watch my dad playing. I used to turn over the pages for him when I was a kid, because they didn't have iPads then, people could just flip from one page to the next. So that was a case of turning the pages, playing the organ. So I really got a taste for it then, I think, and I started with piano lessons first of all, and then I started studying classical organ as well. And then it's sort of something that's really stayed with me for my whole life. I think that, once you get a taste for it, and I did from a very early age, and I went on and studied music at school, and then I went on to music college. So it's always had a very important part of my life, and so yeah, I mean, it's that's what I do. I play the keyboards for a living, thankfully, and a privilege it is too.
Was you surprised by the set of video killed the radio star?
In some respects, yes. I think when we did our original demo, we felt that it was it was pretty special. Certainly not just the gimmickry of it to some degree, but the actual fact that it was a very it's quite a deep song. It's got a lot of nostalgia to it. It has quite a lot of musical depth as well. I think that both Trevor and myself felt that it was, our best shot at the time because we were both working as producers and session musicians. So we had this opportunity, and I think that we couldn't get a deal with it originally. We took this demo around to loads of places, and they rejected it and said, no, it's okay. Well, I was lucky that we got it through to Chris Blackwell at Island Records, and he heard it, and he got on the phone the next day and said, "You guys, you've got to sign them to Island Records." So we got signed to Island like the next day that he decided that this was what he wanted, and I think at that point, I think we got, when we had the weight of a great record company behind us, the enthusiasm within the label of all the different people, whether they be press and promotion or or the licensees overseas, all of that, we felt that we had something, but of course, we had to re-record it and start from the beginning again. But I think by the time we'd finished it, we thought, we couldn't ever make this any better. This is as good as it's going to get, and the rest is history. It took off like crazy.
I know everything is up in the air this year, but what are your future plans for Asia, Yes, and the Downes Braide Association?
Well, I think that we just have to wait and see. I mean, we've got we had a Yes tour planned. I hope that can, either happen or if it's rescheduled. We've got, I love playing. I've really missed playing this last 18 months or so. We finished, I think, in the States in August 2019. So, it's been a long time that we've been off the road, but hopefully with the latest developments, we'll be able to get back out there again. And of course, Asia is still something that I hold dear to my heart. Been there from the beginning. So, and it's our 40th anniversary next year. So that's another possibility. And of course, working with Chris, when I think we did our gigs last year, which just before the lockdown, and great experience. We had a real band on there and great musicians who played on the album, great players. So that's another thing I think we both like to do, particularly now Chris is over here. It's a bit more to communicate and put things like that together.
Anything else you want to mention?
Not specifically, no. I think that it's, we've had some great response at DBA4, the Halcyon Hymns album. And, I hope people enjoy it. I know that we've had some great response to the first couple of tracks we've released so far. Of course, it's out, next month. So, I hope that everyone enjoys it and stays well and keeps well, and we go on, onwards and upwards.
Downes Braide Association released Halcyon Hymns on the 5th of February 2021, and I'd like to thank Geoff for joining me for this interview.
Thanks, Tracy.